Jason Statham is one of the greatest modern action movie stars, and he happens to be my friend. His explosive and gritty, high-octane performances have enthralled audiences the world over. Even in China, the Chinese people are saying, "No more Jackie Chan. We want Jason Statham." In this video, we will get to the heart of just how strong Jason Statham truly is. This is going to be a realistic and serious look at his power level. We will analyze his power levels throughout the years, and we will find out just how powerful Jason the Bulldog, as he's known in action movie circles, just how powerful Jason the Bulldog Statham is today. Lock, stock, and two smoking barrels. Jason Statham's first movie in 1998, when he was 31 years old. You can tell that he's already a very good-looking, very muscular guy. Now let's consider this. In Dragon Ball Z, the average human's power level is said to be 5 to 10. Jason Statham started his movie career with a power level of 440. That's around a whopping 40 to 80 times the power level of the average human. That power level of 440 was 100 power levels higher than Tambourine from Dragon Ball. You know, the big muscular green guy with the six-pack and wings the size of cantaloupes. And this all just goes to show you just how far the Bulldog's genetics and extensive martial arts training were able to take him before he was ever even in a movie, before he ever even got the movie star power boost that people get. Snatch. Jason Statham starred alongside pretty boy Brad Pitt in this movie, but little did Brad know, Jason Statham had been a model for the clothing brand French Connection in 1997, so Brad's pretty boy charm could not intimidate the ruggedly good-looking future action star Jason, the hardest man in Hollywood, Statham. In this movie, Jason had a power level of 674, about a 1.5 times his previous power level, and that power level put him a little bit below Princess Snake's 900 power level. And I know for a fact, if Jason Statham was the one on Snake Way coming across that Princess Snake, oh boy, I can almost guarantee you there would have been some type of kissing a relationship between these two good-looking individuals. Transporter, Jason Statham's first solo lead starring role. He had a 4,150 power level for this movie, a 6 times increase from his previous power level. He wanted us to see just how strong he could get for his first solo starring role, and boy, did we like what we saw. He's a transporter in this movie, so one of the reasons he has to bulk up is because, well, a transporter, if you don't know, is somebody that transports things, and you have to be very strong. You have to have a lot of muscles for lifting heavy stuff. With this great increase in power level going all the way up to a 4,150 power level, all of a sudden we knew this Bulldog didn't just have bark. He had a lot of bite too. Transporter 2, the second entry into Jason Statham's blockbuster Transporter franchise. He had an 18,000 power level in this movie. Jason was now undoubtedly an action movie star, and clearly he must have continued to ramp up his training, getting more and more powerful to improve his action movie career. This 18,000 power level was a 4 times increase from his previous power level, and it put him at the same power level as Frieza Saga's Qui, the purple heartthrob that women used to fawn over. Crank. Now this film is the definition of a high-octane action-packed thriller. The entire plot of the movie is Jason the Bulldog having to keep his adrenaline constantly flowing, or he dies. Look at the iconic scene of him hooking himself up to a car battery. Wow, talk about extreme. Try to get an action star to do that nowadays. You'll get nothing but a letter from their lawyer. Jason Statham was just a whole different breed. They don't make them like this anymore. He had a power level of 39,000. That is over a 2 times increase in only 1 year. Talk about an insane increase in power. He must have been training like crazy. Perhaps the very plot of the movie itself and the role he was playing allowed him to tap into a pool of adrenaline potential that turbocharged his muscle gain from his intensive training. I mean, a power level of 39,000? Hey, they're saying this guy's tough as nails. Literally, this 39,000 power level made him almost as strong as Nail, who had a 42,000 power level. War. Now you know Jason Statham was going to buff up for this movie that pitted him against fellow martial artist Jet Li. Jason Statham was 40 years old at the time of this film, while Jet Li was 45. Now you may say, oh, well, Jason Statham must have had an easy time. He was only 40 and Jet Li was 45. Well, no, that's not quite how it works with movie stars. Movie stars, they are able to get stronger as they get older, and when you get to as high of a level as these guys are at, you actually get stronger as you age. So it makes it all the more impressive that Jason Statham was able to hold his own against Jet Li. This is another 2 times increase at 83,000. Another double in power level in just 1 year. Wow. And this made him stronger than Kurlin in the Frieza saga. Jason is, what can I say? He's one of the best trainers, best people at working his muscles that perhaps we've ever seen on this earth, aside from a few others. Transporter 3, the third entry into the blockbuster franchise. This movie saw Jason Statham with a power level of 100,201, almost matching Captain Ginyu's 120,000 power level. Now you know when you're being mentioned in the same sentence as Captain Ginyu, you know you're on the right track. Captain Ginyu was a good-looking man. Now, this was a relatively small increase considering that he had doubled year over year twice, but when you're increasing that fast, it's to be expected that at some point you're going to have to slow down at least a little bit. Expendables. Jason Statham had 2 years from 2008 to 2010 to buff up for this movie, and he made it all the way to a power level of 215,000, doubling his power level in 2 years. He was starring alongside heavyweights such as Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, when you're starring alongside Rocky, yeah, you better make sure you're drinking your milk. When you're going with those those classic action movie heroes, of course you're going to want to look your best. And boy, did Jason Statham manage to look good. Mechanic, another solo lead starring role for Jason Statham. He had a power level of 274,000 for this movie, a sizable 1 year increase. Hey, if you're working on cars, you gotta have big, strong, functional muscle. Fast and Furious 6. He had a 380,000 power level for this movie, about 1/7 the power level of King Cold, who was at 2.7 million. Wow, when you're mentioned in the same breath as Heartthrob King Cold, that's a good thing. And when you think about it, both King Cold and Captain Ginyu, they kind of have a similar look and skin tone that I like, and I'm not the only one, because back in the day, women fell in love with those two. Jason Statham starred alongside fellow muscleheads Vin Diesel and The Rock, and from my research, as you can see in the previous video I made on Vin Diesel's power level, we can see in 2014 Vin Diesel had a power level of 392,500. so it can be rationally surmised that in 2013, Jason Statham likely had a higher power level than Vin Diesel. And did you know that these two are the same age? Their birthdays are literally only 8 days apart. Wow, that's wacky. I'm starting to notice a little bit of a theme here. It seems that Jason Statham increases his power level much more when he knows he'll be starring alongside fellow buff men. I guess that this is natural and harkens back to natural biology to some extent, motivation and competition and all that. But I think on some level, Jason Statham knows that his fans practically worship his physicality and that he can basically just stay the same normal muscular form for his own starring roles, so he doesn't have to increase his power level too much for those. So his solo star roles, he can just sort of maintain that physique, that power level, but when you put him alongside fellow muscleheads and Hulkamaniacs, the Bulldog's heart just grew 3 inches. Mechanic Resurrection. This movie was 3 years after the Fast and Furious movie, and it saw him increase his power level to 587,691. This made him stronger than First Form Frieza, who had a power level of 530,000. Meg. This movie follows the same trajectory as his other solo lead starring roles. Not too big of an increase, but still a respectable increase, to a power level of 701,000. Hey, you just don't need too many muscles to fill out a dive suit. Fast and Furious 9, otherwise known as Fast 9. Jason Statham had a 974,000 power level in this movie. For comparison, in 2020, Vin Diesel was at 822,000, so Jason is likely still stronger than Vin Diesel at this point. Fast X, we see a massive 340,000 increase to a power level of 1,314,000, making Jason Statham stronger than Second Form Frieza, who had a power level of 1.1 million. When humans get to levels this high, the exponential increases largely stop, but to see a raw power increase like that, it's just a testament to rigorous training, great diet, excellent genetics. However, this movie, likely being the first part of the end of the Fast and Furious franchise, obviously it's special to Vin Diesel in a way it wouldn't be to anyone else. We finally see Vin Diesel edge out Jason Statham, as Vin Diesel's power level for this movie was 1,340,000. Now we arrive at Jason Statham's most recent movie and where his power level likely is today. Working Man. Obviously, you have to have strong, functional muscle if you're a working man, so it makes sense that he would want to buff up somewhat for this movie. He has a power level of 1,502,507. This makes him about 75 times as strong as Dodoria. He must have wanted to breach that 1.5 million power level, and I'm proud to say he was able to do it. Now we will look at Jason Statham's theoretical maximum power level. Now, Vin Diesel, he had access to a Rage unlock. He had access to a Super Saiyan God Power of Family unlock. Jason Statham doesn't necessarily have those. He's sort of a lone wolf figure. He's sort of a cool, calm, and collected, disciplined type of man, so he's going to have different multipliers. What he would likely have access to is something like a potential unlock like the old Kai did for Gohan. Gohan received a 500 times power increase from around 72 to 80 million to 42 billion from this. Now, we will be realistic and we'll say that Jason Statham, rather than a 500 times increase, will get a 70 times increase from this ritualistic and meditative experience. Now, let's look at his other multiplier. His extensive martial arts training, his focus on warm-ups and cool-downs before and after his workouts, his attention to detail with his workouts, focusing on working out the full body, and you can read articles where he's interviewed for all this to see him speaking in depth about all this. His ability to do deep meditation at times, all of this comes together to make him a perfect candidate for Goku's Kaioken. Now, we're not going to say that he has access to a very high level Kaioken like the 50 times Kaioken that Goku has. We're going to be realistic here. We're going to give him a 15 times Kaioken multiplier. And to further make this a realistic thing that would be a thing that could conceivably actually exist, he's going to be tired after he goes into this state, and he'll have to take more naps for 2 to 3 days following using this Kaioken. Just as we did with Vin Diesel, for the sake of realism, we will add these multipliers up rather than multiplying them. So 70 times plus 15 times will give Jason Statham an 85 times multiplier. So we apply that to his around 1.5 million current power level, and we get a current theoretical maximum power level of 127,713,095. Wow. 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 Looks like this Bulldog just learned to stand on its hind legs.